Lewis Hamilton is struggling with Ferrari in this first part of the 2025 season. In Formula One, this is nothing new, as even other highly decorated drivers have encountered numerous difficulties when changing teams. Following the announcement of Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari, the arrival of the seven-time world champion in Maranello for the first time was eagerly awaited by millions of fans, and expectations for 2025 were very high. So far, Lewis Hamilton has managed to claim only one victory in the sprint race in China and a podium, also in a sprint in Miami. Nico Rosberg identifies the nature of Lewis Hamilton's challenges, or at least attempts to share his perspective. In fact, one of the sore points of Ferrari's troubled season, according to the German, is Lewis Hamilton's integration process within the Maranello team. The seven-time Formula One world champion was fully aware that he needed to adapt to the biggest change of his career in the shortest time possible. The new Ferrari driver has always raced for British teams, even though Mercedes is officially entered in the championship as a German constructor. However, Lewis Hamilton's struggles don't seem to stem solely from natural learning curves or the process of getting to know all the team members. A key example is the relationship with his race engineer, Riccardo Adami. The team radio exchanges between Riccardo Adami and the Briton have already fueled many speculations in this early part of the 2025 Formula One season. Yet it was unrealistic to expect the same kind of symbiosis to emerge in just a few months as the long-standing bond he had with Bonington. Riccardo Adami is a respected professional, and only time will help both of them improve communication. The decision-making processes at Mercedes are undoubtedly very different from those at the Italian team. At least that is the view of Nico Rosberg, who raced for Williams before tying his professional fate to the Silver Arrows. According to the 2016 world champion, Lewis Hamilton's current discomfort isn't simply due to results falling far short of expectations. Rather, the results are a logical consequence of a deeper unease. The German driver recently admitted that the level of excellence at Ferrari does not match that of British-based teams like Mercedes, McLaren, or Red Bull. He said this based in part on having visited the Maranello factory. To clarify, Nico Rosberg recalled the way things worked back in Brackley. When Lewis Hamilton had a problem, he would speak directly with team boss Toto Wolff, who would make swift decisions without needing to consult others or go through additional layers within the team. According to Kiki's son, Lewis Hamilton is completely disoriented at Maranello, as the decision-making process is not centralized in someone equivalent to the Vienna-born manager. With all due respect to Nico Rosberg, who may simply be sharing a personal impression, it is hard to imagine that the British champion has confided his frustrations to him, given that they have virtually no personal relationship. Certainly, the seven-time Formula One world champion is learning new methods and adapting to processes different from his past professional experiences. Everything can improve, particularly in light of this season's disappointing results. In terms of mindset, one of the cornerstones of Mercedes' winning era, coined by Toto Wolff, was the motto, "You blame the error, not a person." At Ferrari, failures have often led to avoiding risky decisions for fear of being blamed in the event of a mistake. That is precisely the main reason why aerodynamic updates for the SF25 have been delayed. Postponing corrections during the final year of regulatory continuity is paradoxical, but Frederic Vasseur's team is well aware that the sweeping changes to the 677 project must turn the season around. This does not necessarily mean a Ferrari capable of entering the fight for world titles, but at least one that can compete against its direct rivals. What Ferrari appears to be battling, though, is a car that makes it tricky to deliver the kind of solid weekend progress that Frederic Vasseur so wants to see. Despite a challenging Canadian weekend, Lewis Hamilton found a positive takeaway to bring with him at Ferrari, a clear improvement in qualifying compared to his teammate, Charles Leclerc. On the Montreal circuit, the seven-time world champion managed to qualify ahead of the Monegasque for the third time this season, with a margin of 0.156 seconds, which is the biggest recorded between the two so far this year. It was also the first time this season that Lewis Hamilton beat his Maranello teammate in qualifying for 2 consecutive Grands Prix, confirming progress over a single lap, an area that had been one of his weaknesses in recent years. Charles Leclerc still leads 7-3 in Saturday qualifying and 8-4 when including sprints, but the average lap time gap between them has narrowed from 0.195 seconds to 0.163 seconds. Lewis Hamilton offered some fascinating comments after qualifying 5th in Montreal, his best grid position since Shanghai 3 months earlier, about how previous weekends had often resulted in stumbles along the way as the chase for performance triggered some problems. Lewis Hamilton explained that more often than not, the team completed the first free practice session without major issues, but in previous races, FP2 had frequently been compromised due to problems with the car, such as the floor not functioning properly or the rear wing failing. The Briton noted that there was always something causing a loss of downforce or similar issues, which then led to a poor FP2 session and forced the team to recover during the final free practice session. These comments point to some aero sensitivities, perhaps as the Maranello team chases more downforce lower to the ground. The 7-time Formula One world champion also reckoned that the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal had exposed some fundamental car characteristics that he is especially struggling with. Lewis Hamilton remarked that the 4.361-kilometer circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal had clearly exposed the SF25 car's weaknesses, noting he had never experienced such significant understeer at low speeds. He pointed out that the car simply refused to turn through Turn 2 and Turn 10. While Frédéric Vasseur may be playing down the significance of upgrades coming, it is clear that any car improvements will help put Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc in a happier place, which could bring benefits in unlocking the perfect weekend it is chasing. For it would be wrong to suggest that Ferrari has to pick where its focus on progress must come from, because having a better car and improving weekend execution are not mutually exclusive. As Lewis Hamilton has suggested, put the car closer to the front and maybe that delivers the spark of the trackside team being able to do a better job because it is not chasing the limit so much with things. The British driver acknowledged that he was aware they were not in contention for a win this year or fighting for the championship, admitting it was not a great feeling. He added that the car currently lacked performance, but expressed hope that an upgrade might eventually make them more competitive. The Ferrari engineers and technicians are certainly not sitting back, and Lewis Hamilton knows that things have to be done differently in the future if the Maranello team wants to make progress. The former Mercedes driver pointed out that much of what was happening behind the scenes was not visible to the public, noting that there was a lot going on. At the same time, the Briton emphasized that many aspects needed improvement and that numerous changes were necessary. While the upcoming race in Austria appears promising for Ferrari on paper, given the Maranello team's strength in slow and medium-speed corners typical of the Red Bull ring, team principal Frédéric Vasseur remains cautious. The French manager maintains that Ferrari's success hinges entirely on executing each race weekend flawlessly, a consistency they have struggled to achieve throughout the 2025 Formula One season.